The show, this video is called Our Dad's Garage. He's my dad. Yeah! Also my tooth squiggly. Ha!
Okay, the next thing we want to tackle is this. This is the end of the trunk pan, and it's all rotted out, as you can see, all the way through there where water stays in that channel. I mean, you can literally see all the way under it. I've made my lines. I've made straight lines because with metal, you need to work in straight lines if you can, because it just makes it easier to butt. So I took my ruler and I made a straight line to that mark right there, and I made a straight line through here. And I'm going to cut through the bottom of that little channel right there, and I'll figure out a way. This back wall right here is in pretty good shape. There's no sense in having to reform all that, but down there it's rotted out. So I'm just going to cut a straight all the way across there and come on through to here, and then my straight line again back into that space. I will deal with that separately. I just want to get some straight lines and some new metal in that place now, so that's what we'll work on. Alright, so now you can see I've cut all of the end of that trunk section out, and that's back here. Now we've got some good metal to work off of. We've got this piece here. Now this is the tail section, the tail pan. You can see it's completely rusted out, but only the underside and this face here is rusted. So this part here, this rain channel, which is really structural. Now once you start bending steel, it really becomes stiff. So this will hold shape, and so what I'm going to do, and what I've marked is, I've marked my green line here that I'm going to come across just to get all that section taken out, and then I'm going to cut along just below that rain edge, and I'm going to keep that edge right where it's at, because I know that will line up with my trunk when my trunk comes back and gets shut. I don't have to worry about, you know, it being too far out or too far in, as long as I keep this piece there and I don't, you know, hit it or get against it. So I've got that to go. I will also probably put my trunk back on before I do the final welds here, but I know this is going to be very close. And then I'm going to come over here, I'm going to do the same cut. I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to take the bottom section out of this. This is just a channel that's just broken. And what I'll do then is I'll probably come back in 3 pieces. Maybe I'll make this section to about here, one center section about to here, and then another section there, because what you see, if you look at this from the edge, is you've got some compound bends. Okay, you've got a bend coming out, you've got a bend going back, and you've got another bend coming back the other way. And in order to do that, the easiest way for me to do it is I'll break 3 pieces with the overhang like I want, and I'll bend 2 of them identical coming toward us, and then I'll concave one the other direction just a little bit, so that when I get those welded in, I can create exactly what that shape is. There's also a panel here that we worked on earlier that bolts to the bottom of this, so I will use it sort of as a go-by too, just to kind of give me an idea of what that shape looks like. But that should be pretty easy. But the next section is just to cut that piece right there out. Okay, and there it is with that tail pan section cut out. It's looking better already, you know, pretty rotted piece of steel there. All right, so now we're going to get in there. We're going to clean up some of those panels that are in the back. Most of these are not necessary really to reconstruct what we need. This, I'm actually going to make a box that's going to make it just a little bit different than it was in the factory. I'm going to get rid of some of these braces and go back into this bar back here and actually attach everything back to that bar. So I'm going to clean all this up and do a little drop down channel piece there. Just make that a little bit more simple design. You'll never see it on the back side anyway. So I'm going to clean some of that stuff up, and we'll see what the next video looks like. You know, one of the things that I didn't mention is when you're cutting these panels out, you know, you need to kind of look in behind here and see how they came together from the factory, and see if you can find these factory breaks. So this is where these things came together when they were pressed together at the factory. And this lip right here on the inside gives this panel a lot of strength. So you don't want to cut that lip. So you want to come in here and make sure when you make your marks, here we are looking at the inside, that you preserve that lip, and then that gives you something substantial to weld to. This is the one on the other side, exactly the same thing. So I cut just on the inside of that lip. So always look on the inside of where you're welding and see if you're going to be able to use some of these factory things that are still in good shape to give you some structure. So that's just another little tip. Okay, we're back here at the tail pan section again. So I've made this little panel that's going to go in here, and all I did was break it with a 90-degree break, and then I came in here, because it's got a double break in it, it's going to have to curve. First it curves in, and then it starts to curve out, okay? It curves in and then out, and then it starts here again and starts curving back in again. So it's one, this is a compound curve, and the only way that, well, not the only way, but the best way to do that is to go ahead and get your curve started right in that corner and make that line up well and tack it here, and then as you work your way through, you just pull that guy out and let it line up where it's supposed to, and you'll see how it comes back out here. That fit's going to be pretty good, but we'll have that one done just in a second. I'll show you that. Okay, quick update. There is the driver's side tail pan. There is the passenger side tail pan. It's got the nice little curve to it. I guess you can see that. Nice, nice, nice. Because I did the same thing on the back side here. I just cut. Now when I come back, I will lay a piece of steel in there and I'll weld that to give that a lot of stiffness. But I want to make sure that this, you see that play right there? I want to make sure I don't do anything to fix that until I get my trunk rebounded, to make sure that when the trunk lines up, that it lines up right along the edge of that drip rail and that tail pan section. So now I'm going to cut small pieces that will go in here and break them. So it'll be basically a piece about yay wide, and it'll have a break in it the same way. It'll have sections in it because it's got the curve concave. I'm going to try to do it in 2 sections and split it right here in the center. And it'll be about a 2-inch piece. What I'm going to do is actually make it, this is the longest dimension here. It actually drops down, but I'll make the entire thing this length, and then I'll put it in place, tack it in place, and come on the back side and scribe out this line, and then clean that edge off and cut the other one out to match that edge perfectly, and weld it in place. You'll see that next. All right, gang, well, it's been a long day. It's dark outside. See the lights? Dark outside. I got a lot done. So this is the tail section now. I've got the tail panel put into place. I've just actually got it clamped in with just some vice grips right now. I'm gonna have to make one slice right here that if you cut that, well, I've got an overlapped. If I just go ahead and just cut it together, then those 2 cuts will actually match. So that's the easiest way to do that. But the tail section is mounted. The 2 sides are in. That panel will go in. I did the same thing as before. I came along through here and on the back side, and I cut about every inch as you go along, and that allows that metal to flex. And then there's going to be another piece of metal that comes in underneath this to create a drop-down panel. So it'll go down and flat across in that section. These little pieces here I'm going to cut out, I believe, is what I plan to do. But you can see this is still pretty flimsy. Before I do any of that, I'll put the trunk lid back on and make sure that all of this will line up. But that'll all get welded in probably sometime this week. Just a little bit more fitting to do. But that's going to look really good. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. The curves are good. It looks, I think, as good as the factory one. Can't tell the difference. I can't, so it's pretty good. And that's today. So we got a lot done. So we got inner fender and, well, the inners and the outers done on the rear skins here on both sides. And we've got the tail section finished. And then earlier in the week we finished this rain gutter. So we've had a pretty good week of productivity. So. Okay, I'm back on the tailpan section, and I've got this one piece here cut pretty close, and it's ready to tack in. I'm going to tack it in on both sides and a couple places across the top. Then I'll take all of these clamps out, and I'm going to go ahead and build that piece. Then I'll have to take this dust panel and mount that and make sure that it lines up with the dust panel that goes on the back between the bumper and the tail section. And I'll also get the trunk down. It's hanging up over there. I'll get the trunk back and mount the trunk and make sure that all of this is in pretty good shape. It's pretty flexible, but it's time to get the trunk out and do that too. But I'm ready to do some weld up on this, just tacking it. That's got the tailpan section tacked into place. Now we just need to make sure that it has the correct fitment. That's a word that I hate. By the way, I watch these shows on TV and they use the word fitment, and I always think that's not even a word. Make sure it fits. That's what we're looking for. And I'll get the tailpan or the dustpan section out and the trunk back on, and I'll show you that just next. Okay, so there's the trunk back on and the gravel guard between the bumper and the tailpan section. And you can see the fit is pretty good across there. It is a little droopy right there in the center. Okay, well you can see still got a little bit of cleanup to do, but what I've done is I've gone in and I've cut out every little place where the floors were weak or there were some little pinholes or even bigger than pinholes. When you do that, if you've got some factory mounting places, I think this is for the gas tank. It may not be, but I think it is. And you can save it. Don't cut those out. You want to save those kind of things if you can save it. This is kind of what I did. I just came along the edge where it's resting and took my grinder and cut back. I'll have to get under there and clean that up. I've got to get under the car to finish those cuts there. But I just cut out everything that's kind of Swiss cheese all around this trunk bed. And now what I will do is I'll start cutting some pieces. I'm going to use 18 gauge fender steel, no big deal. Doesn't need to be supportive. I did cut through this trunk support right here, so I'm going to have to re-weld that. That actually holds the floor of the trunk in, so that's I had to cut it. I had to cut through there to get the rusty part out. There's sections like back in here. This is inside. Let me show you where that is. Back inside this quarter panel, where there is some rot, and to get in there and cut that out and to replace that is really difficult. You can't get. It's just very difficult to get your torch in there or your welder in there, to get your cutting wheels in there. So I'm going to just clean that up really good, and I'm going to do a fiberglass patch over those areas. None of that is structural in any way. All that needs to do is keep the rainwater, and I think there's some in this fender too. Well, that one looks pretty good. That just keeps the rainwater out of your car as you're going down the road. So that's all that's for. Bottom of the spare tire well. I was going to completely delete the spare tire well, but it's in decent shape. A new spare tire well online is like $199. It's crazy. But I guess they have to stamp that out of 2 pieces. There must be some more labor in it than I can imagine, but I don't know. But I'm going to just patch that piece there in the floor. So I'll just start cutting some small pieces of steel out and tacking those in, and I'll update you kind of as we go, a little piece at a time. Okay, just a quick update. You can see here I have welded in a couple of new panels. That section of the floor was pretty rusted out. There's a section back here, pretty rusted out. Little section there that was rusty hole. There's one there I've got to still fill. Another couple there that I've got to still fill. And bottom of the wheel well. But I also want to show you that I cut out all of the supports that came between the old trunk floor and this tailpan section. So those 2 things are just floating now. And I'm going to actually cut my own piece. Let me hang this light back up so I can show you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a piece of metal that'll lap over here. It'll drop straight down. It'll then turn and catch this lip right here of the tailpan section. So it will make a box. It'll box that in, and a box of metal like that is going to be very strong. But I can't do that until, as you can see here, when I pull up on this trunk floor, I don't know if you can tell, that whole thing is moving a lot. This tail section here, that's me moving that, okay? That moves a lot. I can't put that in until I get this back on the frame. There's a frame connection here. The frame comes all the way back to here and sets here. It gives the trunk floor support. So if that frame were to push this up, say, half an inch, and this were welded in, we would have serious problems. So none of that can be welded in until we get back on the frame. That's just got to float. So right now, I'm just cutting out old stuff. I can't really finish up these repairs. These little holes here, I can do those. Those won't change anything. But any of this stuff here, I gotta wait until I get it back on the frame. That's probably sometime next week. That's the update.